I'm Bryn Bowen. I was here at Peninsula 1996 through to 2001. So that's year 7 to 12. I was in Country House. Currently I'm trained as a teacher, so I trained as a high school maths teacher, but I'm now essentially working as a CRT, like a relief teacher, and I'm freelance as a musician. I began at Peninsula Grammar in 1996 as a year 7 student, and I had an interesting beginning because I was year 7 and 2 weeks before the start of school I came down with chickenpox. So I actually missed the first 2 weeks of year 7 and was known as the kid with chickenpox, which was a great sort of start to your high school career. And I was really lucky, like I was never expecting to be able to come here. I was able to pursue lots of things. Got involved in the music, I got involved in the sport, I got involved with cadets, I got involved in the musical productions, and I really enjoyed all of it. And that was the best thing about being in a place like this, was that I had the opportunity to do lots of things all the time. So how did I get involved in music? Well, I grew up in a musical family. I've been bashing away on pots and pans when I was 2. That's a great memory that people love to talk about, hitting ice cream buckets and saucepans and stuff like that. So then when I was about 6 or 7, I took piano lessons. That taught me to read music. I did that for a little while. And then when I came to Peninsula, I took lessons here in drums and percussion. I had some fantastic teachers over my time here, and I was able just to get involved in bands and obviously you find aspects of your tribe while you're here, and you find people that like to do the same thing. So you learn, you pick up guitar and you pick up bass, and I sort of got to play a bit more piano, and just you sing a lot. And so I was lucky to get into that music side of things fairly early and fairly consistently. I did lots of community and amateur theatre on stage and in bands from when I was 12, 15 onwards. And then I've just sort of built that a bit ever since. I've been lucky in the last few years that I've sort of been able to do more work on larger stages and larger commercial musical theatre things, and other stuff for Melbourne Comedy Festival and Melbourne Fringe, and and I've done corporate events and weddings and all the stuff that everyone does. But I've been lucky that all of that training and all of that pedigree that I was encouraged to do, being able to do that more or less on a daily basis was a bonus. So I was very fortunate, very privileged to be able to do that. Favourite teacher? That's a toughie. I probably couldn't limit it to one. Because I did lots of things, you develop relationships with different people in different capacities, and I was really thankful for a lot of the people that I had academically, creatively. So Adam Wesley, who was here, he was a great sense of support and encouragement with things like stage band and other aspects of anything music related. I had David Lloyd as one of my science teachers. He was a big character. So he was really good value. I had David Baker, who is now my boss at Woodley. He was my physics teacher, and he was great. And he was very encouraging. I had Juliet Barber for English in year 11, and she was a character. My brother had her. I had Peter Cole in year 10. I could keep going, there'd be heaps of names. I had Sam Mackey, I had Louise Daly, I had Eric Rinkel, and they nurtured and encouraged and cultivated joys and passions for myself and heaps of other students in terms of their involvement with productions, large and small. That breadth of relationship with people was really cool. So all of those people, I reckon, had an input. So one of my most memorable moments was when I was in year 12, the school production of Sweeney Todd, and I had to shave my head. Louise Daly came to me in, I don't know, April or March or something. I was in year 12, and she said, "How would you feel about shaving your head for the role?" And I went, "Oh, yeah, cool, whatever." And she said, "No, bald. No, we want to go bald." All right. She said, "We can make a bit of a publicity thing out of it." We had like a little stage set up on the quadrangle. We shaved it down, so we clipped it down, then shaving cream and razor to being bald. And I've got really big ears, so it was not necessarily a good look. But then, classic school timing, they were doing yearbook photos. So in my year 12 yearbook, half the photos of stuff that I'm involved in, first 11 cricket, debating or whatever it was, I'm bald. I didn't really budget on that part being entrenched in everyone's memory. So who do I keep in contact with? Well, the likes of Sam McMillan and Richard, we were good mates in high school, and Sam and I thankfully run into each other fairly regularly through things like comedy festival circuit stuff. So we've been lucky enough to catch up at different points through that. And then 5 or 6 years after I'd finished is when social media sort of took off. You know, it's nice to keep tabs. I still keep tabs with Jess Welsh. Social media is probably a game changer compared to, you know, other generations where they were, you know, it wasn't a thing to be able to see what people were doing. So when I finished school, I'd resolved I wanted to do a gap year. I wanted a break from school, and so I took a gap year in the UK teaching outdoor ed. So we were like at a YMCA run place, and that was amazing. That was one of those formative life experiences, you know, where you learn a lot, you make a lot of mistakes. Then I went to uni at Melbourne Uni, and I'd started in a double degree, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science. I ended up completing just a straight Bachelor of Arts, and somewhere along the line I'd sort of thought about, maybe I could, you know, I'd like to do teaching. I've always played, I've always performed, and then I've just always been on the lookout to do bigger and better things. And so I decided I needed a break from teaching. When you have a bit more time, you're available to say yes to more things. So, you know, thankfully, gratefully, a few more opportunities have come my way. Every musical connection that's either been in a different field or it's taken to another aspect of music has been made through community theatre. So I've met players who have then said, oh, do you do corporate work? Yes. Do you want to come and play in this wedding band? That sort of thing. So all of the connections have come through there. So I've done lots of community theatre shows and lots of school shows. And then, you know, in recent years, like I've been fortunate to have some opportunities working on larger scale commercial shows, which is something I've always sort of aspired to do. A good friend of mine, James Simpson, who I'd been working with for a long time, booked me to play 9 to 5 in 2022, and he also recently put me forward for Chicago, so I did their opening night in Sydney, which was great. But I did some subbing work on Mary Poppins and Come From Away, which was awesome, and I was able to go to Canberra last year for 6 weeks with Come From Away, and you know, I'm doing some depth work on Beauty and the Beast at the moment, which is in town. Australia's really lucky. Australia's got a really big, thriving music theatre scene. You know, there's still a lot of people competing for a very limited number of spots. It's usually a bit like who you know and not what you know. You don't have to be first on someone's list, you just have to be the first person to say yes. I've made a career out of playing drums and percussion mainly. But yeah, if I'm working on a show, you know, you would have some very limited rehearsals, you know, 2 or 3 sort of rehearsals. Then you might go into a, you know, a tech or dress sort of rehearsal, a couple of those, and then invariably you then have an audience within a few days. Wicked, which my wife is playing on, had probably a few more based on the complexity of the show. If Chicago is different in the sense that the band's on stage for the show, like a Mary Poppins or a Beauty and the Beast or a 9 to 5, we're in an orchestra pit, and so we're not usually visible. You know, within a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how big the show is, you've got an audience, and so you've got paying public. So Come From Away, I did that had a long season that was interspersed with COVID. It was one of these shows that just kept popping back with COVID interruptions, whatever. When 9 to 5 finished, I did some fill-in, some depping work on Come From Away in Melbourne, and then fast forward, you know, sort of 6-8 months later, they were doing a Canberra season. I got booked, asked to do that Canberra leg, and by that stage, Ange Scundy had jumped on board with the tour, and so Ange, who was in Sweeney Todd, like Ange and I go back a long, long way, and we'd sort of probably caught up briefly over many years, but you know, it was nice. We got to hang out on tour and sort of, you know, spend time working on that together, and it was great, you know, to sort of reconnect and spend some time working in the same circuit. So that was cool. Hard to pinpoint. I'd say the opening night of Chicago in Melbourne and then the opening night of Chicago in Sydney was pretty amazing, because it's a unique experience, bands on stage, it's a cool show. I've always wanted to play that show, and so to have that buzz sitting on stage when you're actually part of the cast, part of the production, not in a pit as such, and then you've got the audience and all that stuff, that's a pretty big moment. I did a gig with Ruben Kay at the Forum a couple of years ago, where it was, well, we did 2 shows at the Forum. It was packed out, and I love the Forum, but it was, you know, it's awesome. You're on stage, and it was this late night variety show. That was pretty cool. Yeah, so I really enjoyed those sorts of moments where you get to have that big buzz. Piece of advice to 18-year-old self in year 12. I'd say keep pursuing the creative sides of things. You know, there's a cliche of following dreams. That's true, and I applaud people that are prepared to do that in its entirety and in its fullest. I think they can be really brave sometimes. There's a practicality that comes with some of that, and I was lucky that, you know, well, not lucky, I made a conscious choice to sort of go, let's have something else as an alternative, but still maintain part of it. And the one piece of advice I could have said probably to my 18-year-old self is, you could probably lean into that creative stuff harder. You could probably be a little braver, which is, you know, hard to do, but, you know, I've walked out of it with a capacity to do another career, which was teaching, while still maintaining a musical and creative presence. But, you know, I could say to younger me, yeah, you can lean in harder. It will be okay. What's next? Well, at the moment, as I said, I've kind of hit that change of gears in my, you know, professional life after teaching for 15, 16, whatever long. Having a real change of pace and a real change of flexibility is new for me. It's as much about just trying to pick up as much, you know, gig work, whatever that may look like. So, as I said, I've got some work with Beauty and the Beast, which is coming up, and then we'll just see. So, reflecting on my time at Peninsula, I'm grateful for the opportunities that the school gave me. I had a very positive high school experience. I was really lucky. I was supported by a great network of educators that encouraged me to work hard, pursue what I enjoyed doing, nurtured and supported those talents and interests, and, you know, also gave a drive to what I've deemed important, to be academically strong and work, you know, do your best, or sort of at all times. So I was lucky that the people that were in my corner throughout my entire high school career were really supportive of that. They were supportive of the diversity of my interests and the fact that I could throw myself into everything. But I was grateful to the support for that, and the school was really good to me.